Caring for children with disabilities in Ohio, the impact on families. Research has shown that families caring for children with disabilities experience higher levels of stress, curtailed employment opportunities, and diminished rates of general well-being compared to other families. A research team at The Ohio State University and Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, with support from the Ohio Developmental Disabilities Council, explored the impact of raising a child with a disability in terms of financial, emotional, and social well-being. Estimates of family impact are drawn from 4 Ohio surveys: the Ohio 2008 American Community Survey, or ACS, the 2008 Ohio Family Health Survey, OFHS, the 2007 National Survey of Children's Health, NSCH, and the 2005-2006 National Survey of Children with Special Health Care Needs, NSCS-HCN. We'll also present Medicaid claims data that reveals healthcare utilization patterns of children with disabilities. Finally, we'll present excerpts of focus groups of family members caring for children with disabilities. This graph presents annual income of families matched on age of oldest parent, age of child, race, education level, and family composition. The yellow bars represent families raising typically developing child, and the red bars represent similar families raising a child with a disability. This graph shows, after adjusting for socio-demographic factors, families caring for children with disabilities earn less than similar families raising typically developing child.
My husband, he used to be a truck driver, and I don't work, but he ended up having to take a lower paying job and doesn't hardly get any hours because I couldn't do it by myself. He had to come home. And I mean, it's hard. There's just not that much out there.
Financially, just having, like I said before, having a child with a disability, you're not always able to work because your time is so involved in your child, and so therefore already from the get-go you're almost behind because how do you got to be real frugal, or you got to really make it work, and you're already going crazy kind of in the process, the journey you're taking with your child, and it's so exhausting, and it just makes you crazy, though. I mean, it's hard. It's been very difficult.
She's been approved for Social Security. We've seen all their doctors. Oh yeah, she qualifies. Oh wait, you both work. You make too much money.
Yeah, and
so she doesn't get it.
And you own too much.
We don't know labels. We go from check to check. She's coming up for a waiver one. She's fourth on the list.
Yeah.
But she's not going to get it because you have to be Medicaid eligible.
Yeah.
And she's not. So how is that helping? I mean, that helps us absolutely in no way whatsoever.
Yeah. You don't have no help whatsoever as far as the medical.
If you work and you try to do the right thing, you can't get help.
Not only do families caring for children with disabilities earn less income, 31% report financial strain from the child's health care expenses. 20% of the families report spending more than $1,000 a year in out-of-pocket expenses, and 32.8% report needing additional income to pay for the child's medical expenses.
So we finally got a Medicaid card, and to keep the Medicaid card, I had to have a diagnosis. So for 5.5 years, it took us to get a diagnosis from genetics at Riverside, or at Children's. But still, the genetics are still testing them for disorders because the FG syndrome, they haven't come up with a test yet that catches all of the children with FG syndrome. So we came up out of pocket a lot for all of his therapies. And, my husband has only been home two days in the last year and a half. He works out of state.
Families of children with disabilities spend a great deal of time coordinating health care for the child. This may help explain why 26.3% of families report one family member reduced work hours to care for the child, and 32.3% stopped working altogether due to the child's health.
I had to quit my job so that my wife could have her career, because she will go further in her life and career than I will. So I have a master's degree in delivering newspapers, guys, so that I'm available to take Robert to school, because he can't ride the bus right now because there are behavior issues. And the school will call me by 1 o'clock on any given afternoon to say, his top has popped. There's nothing more we can do with him, and I will pick him up. So all of life and many dreams and hopes of it, that's what it makes it easier staying home and giving up my social life. Not having the money to do it also helps you along. So there are ways to make yourself happier.
I can't have a full-time job. I haven't been able to have one since my son was born. And so our financial aspect is that we are so in debt that it's ridiculous. And, you know, we live a pretty nice life. I'm not complaining. And I say a pretty nice life, but what's a pretty nice life? I need a new garage. I had relatives over for the first time in 3 years, and I patched the walls because I was embarrassed of how many holes I have in my plaster walls. Figuring if it was sort of patched, they'd think I was doing maintenance. So it's kind of scary what you want to show people and what you don't want to show people.
Parents of children with disabilities report coping less well with parenting demands. They're more likely to report their child is harder to care for than other children. And they're much less likely to report having emotional help with parenthood.
They told us she had Down syndrome. And we're 100% positive, but we'll do blood work so you have it documented. And they came back in and they said, no, it's not Down's, but they didn't check for anything else. And she had projectile reflux and her heart problems and all this stuff. She was 8 months old, and we went to physical therapy, and the receptionist asked us if she had ever been tested for Williams syndrome. So we'd never heard of it. What is that? And we went home and called the doctor's office. And I asked them, I said, can you tell me if she's been tested for this? Well, we'll check her file and call back. The doctor called back, and he said, no, she's never been tested. It's a name to go with problems. There's no cure. You can't fix it. Don't worry about it. And hung up. So needless to say, we were pretty upset. And where do you go? When the doctor tells you don't worry about it, you can't do it. We called our early intervention person, and I said, how do we find out about this? And she connected us with Cincinnati Children's from people from there, and they got her right in. So she wasn't diagnosed till she was 8 months old.
What is Williams?
Chromosome 7 is missing in last. Causes mild mental development, mental retardation, developmental delays, the heart condition, narrowing of arteries. She was the first child with Williams syndrome that the surgeon in Cincinnati had done a tethered cord repair on. She's very, very complicated at times. Keeps us on our toes. Yes. But we had never heard of it until then. And then you start researching and you're scared to death because the internet is a horrible thing at times because you're overwhelmed. But once you kind of accept it and learn things to do, it gets better. Never done it.
I would say it's gotten a lot easier for me now that I've given up the idea of doing anything. I thought I was social and I thought I needed friends and people, and apparently I do not. All I need to do is have a routinized day, 7 days a week. Let's do the same thing over and over and over. And those don't include trips, going out to eat, visiting friends, and in fact, having people over changes the dynamic of the house.
There's always in my mind a plan. There's a plan A, there's a plan B, there's a plan C, there's a backup. You know, every what if situation goes through my mind. And now that they're older, in some ways they're doing so much better, but in other ways because they're so incredibly different, where one wants to go super fast, the other one is like, gonna go really slow. I got to where I rarely take them together if I'm doing something fun. Errands are now okay, but like it's very, very challenging to juggle that, to plan it, to have the energy emotionally, mentally.